Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has had quite a significant impact on an already overburdened public education system. Now, while families struggle to pay fees, many schools have lost teachers. Pupils have also been disadvantaged with disruptions to learning. Let's discuss the impact of COVID, obviously, on public education with education specialist. That's Mary Metcalfe. Mary, thank you for your time and good morning to you. I think I've just literally probably scratched the surface just in terms of the impact on the education system, on teachers, on pupils, even on the academic year. Take us through how the reality and the dire situation was like on the ground.
You know, education is such an interesting case study of the impact of COVID-19 on all of our lives because we keep adjusting. We've had these lockdowns, we've had to learn all kinds of new personal behaviors, and somehow as a society we're coping with many serious long-term consequences on employment, on our state of mind. But it all comes together in education because education is a place where there has to be physical distancing so that children and teachers are safe. But the conditions under which the physical distancing has to take place are complex because of the different context of our schools, how much space they have to physically distance, what the conditions are at home for learning. And all of this has had a huge impact on learning because in the majority of our schools, learners have had to attend every second day. And the majority of learners have not been able to learn at home. Yeah. So learning has been set back.
Yeah. Would you also agree, Mary, that, you know, COVID-19 has exposed the inequalities that we see in schools, just in terms of lack of, you know, resources, infrastructure, and already overburdened public schooling system, and now with the pandemic further exacerbating the already challenges that have been identified there?
So there were pre-existing inequalities and those have been exacerbated. I think that when we look at the impact of COVID on schools, we need to take a long-term view and we also need to look with huge appreciation at what ordinary schools and school leaders have done. It's not the case that the system has collapsed. I think that the heroic efforts of so many school leaders and communities have kept schools operating. But we also need to realize that it's going to be a long-term catch-up. It's not a question of quickly catching up the time that was lost. We have to be supporting schools to continue to build the foundations of learning for subsequent years, whether the foundations are foundation phase or in the later grades of primary school or early grades of high school. It's going to be a period of supporting teachers to understand where learners are and to help them catch up.
That was going to be my next question in terms of how do we then better support, you know, teachers. And I suppose this is the first time in such a long time where I think the common goal is everyone needs to put in a hand. Everyone needs to contribute to this support, to this help, be it the parents at home, be it, you know, government, be it, you know, business, be it communities. Everyone needs to be part of the solution in terms of supporting, you know, both teachers and learners. How do you think we can actively get involved in terms of ensure that that support is quite visible?
I think the working relationship between the school and the home is critical because as long as there is a rotational attendance, learners are going to be learning at home, and not all homes have caregivers that are able to provide the support that's required. There could be so much more that we did if we worked together in the street, in the community, using our structures such as faith communities to say, can we not just provide a learning space? The sense that many learners have that the day when they're not at school is a holiday is, I think, very damaging. We also need to improve communication between school and home. Some schools are using, for example, WhatsApp groups to communicate. Some schools are able to send printed information home, but it doesn't work in every localities. And the greatest exposure of inequality in this pandemic is the number of learners who are falling further and further behind from the most disadvantaged sectors. We have to focus there. And my fundamental view is that we have to appreciate and support the efforts that are being made by educators.
Right.
Because everywhere I go, everywhere I listen, I am amazed at what educators are doing. We have to appreciate them more.
Absolutely. And then just speaking of that, you know, Mary, we support the teachers, the pupils who've fallen behind, catch up, and those who are out of the schooling system because they're dropped out can be reintegrated back into the schooling system. And I thank you so much for highlighting those important points for us. Mary Metcalfe, thank you for joining us this morning.